Welcome to Hope in Hell, the podcast that encourages listeners to see that no matter what life has thrown at you, there's always hope. You just need to know where to look. If you find value in these conversations, don't forget to follow or subscribe on YouTube or your favourite podcast platform. If you're inspired by what you hear, we'd so appreciate you leaving a review. It helps others discover the podcast and spreads hope even further. Because getting banned from the gym in jail is like the worst thing that can possibly happen to you.
The staff knew where they stood, and so did the people in our custody.
Basically, if you're a cat here, escape must be made impossible.
And the cons were shouting, "You're not in Kansas anymore now, Dorothy." I thought, where am I at here?
For these transfer requests in now, it's going to take you 7 to 9 years to get out of here.
I can only remember in the time I was there, one fight and the prisoners broke it up.
He said, "I know you're taking steroids. You couldn't press 2 toilet rolls 6 weeks ago."
Right.
Now, look, I don't think we don't know.
I've been abseiling with the prisoners. You been what? Yeah, and then we did a bit of canoeing in the afternoon. You are?
You tend to get the more influential prisoners in the gym as well.
He said, "You're not going to get anything in life, unless you work hard for it." I was like, "Whatever, mate, yeah." And he was right.
We never had no alarm bells in the gymnasium.
Thank you, Lenny, for coming.
My pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Lenny's an ex-colleague of mine of many years. And we've brought along today just to get a little bit of background. We'll only start with Lenny, and I'll stop tapping my fingers. Just a little bit about you, where you were born, where you were brought up, like your informative years, and how you ended up where you were.
I'm a Durham lad. I was born in Durham, and I lived most of my life around Durham, but the job which we'll come on to took me away from that as well, but now I'm home again. My formative years, my school years weren't the best. I was a bit of a jack the lad. I was more into my sport, and I think that was the distraction. But sport got me through school. I didn't leave with any qualifications really to speak of, and it was kind of, them days, I think you could job about more than you can these days. And I didn't really have any, I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was younger, I wanted to be a professional footballer, as every young boy does. I had some chances, I blew them. And then it was just all of a sudden, well, I'm leaving school now. What am I going to do? And at the time, there was some government schemes, the 6-month schemes, and I took those, and I suppose, looking back, they were there to massage the numbers, the unemployment numbers, and I wouldn't have swapped it. And then I got a job at Peter's Bakeries, and that was a baptism of fire, and it was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and long shifts, and I thought, I ain't going to last here, I'm going to move on. But I ended up being there for about 5 years, and it was coming to the end of its time. I was getting weary of it, and my dad was a fireman, and I thought uniform services is the way to go. So I looked at them all, and I applied for them all, and I just chucked everything in, hoping that the fire brigade would come out, and anyway they didn't, and I ended up joining the prison service at 23, way back in the 80s.
So what put you onto the prison service then?
Just the fact that I think, Tom, what it was because of the uniform. There was the police, the fire brigade, not so much the ambulance service. I don't think that was as at the forefront. You didn't hear many people saying, "Oh, I'm going to,"
No.
In the green uniform as well. Anyway, I looked at the lot, and I looked at the police, and then I thought, well, if I had the choice between the police and the prison service, and that it seems a little bit profound, I thought, well, I would rather be in the prison service because I know who the bad guys are. And I thought, probably like you thought, if I go in there, can I make a difference?
Yeah.
I read up on it, and I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. But there was so many specialisms within the prison service as well. There wasn't a police force, but I just thought, well, the prison service kind of offers opportunities. And when I first joined the prison service, I thought, I want to be a dog handler. I grew up in a one-parent family. My mum went to work. She worked all hours to keep the family together. And we could never have a dog. And I thought, best of both worlds here, I'm going to be a dog handler. Anyway, I joined the prison service.
Can I ask where you went? What was your first posting?
They sent me to Pentonville.
In London?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the only time I'd kind of heard of Pentonville was on a Monopoly board.
Yeah.
And I thought, where the bloody hell's that? Anyway, I soon found out. And it was the single thing. If you were a single guy, you were off to London. You knew that when you joined the service. Went off down there, and you get caught up in learning your craft. And it was another baptism of fire. Wouldn't have changed it for the world. And they reckoned that you would be in London between 7 and 9 years before you got a transfer.
Was Pentonville a Victorian local?
Yes, it's an old Victorian local, yes, and it was built on the radial system. And it was what I would term as a proper jail.
Yeah.
And it was run very well.
I was going to say, let's explore that. I'm interested in
Yes.
that.
Well, there was a lot of turnover with staff because it was a London jail. But what I immediately noticed was there was a great mix of staff from all over the country. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when I went to Acklington, it was all Northumbrians.
Yeah.
But when I was in London, there was Scousers, there was Manx, there was Geordies, there was Cockneys, there was people from Wales, few smatterings of Scottish staff, and I thought, this is great, this is absolutely fabulous. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And the structure was, you turned up for duty and you stood on the centre, which is kind of in the middle of all the wings, and the chief officer inspected you before you were turned out for duty, and it was what we termed as a whistle and stick parade.
Yeah.
So if you didn't have your whistle, it was on a chain here, hold the whistle and hold your stick, and he'd walk in between you, and if you didn't have it, you were sent off duty and you lost money.
Were the officers still wearing caps and stuff
Yes.
in those days? Yeah.
Yes, they were. A lot of them became handbags because staff didn't like to wear them. Or a lot of them would be under your arm, and you learnt the knack of it being under your arm and opening a cell door at the same time. And the amount of times I used to get bollocked off the chief officer, who you would never see coming, for not wearing a cap. And he explained it to me, and I wore it forever and a day after that. And he just said, if it stuck with me, if you're on the end of a landing and my eyesight isn't all that good, I can see that you've got a cap on and know you're an officer. Mm-hmm. And it kind of stood out. Well, that's why we wear the uniform. And it was just disciplined for the staff. And if it was disciplined for the staff, then that was going to cascade down. Now, I don't mean discipline cracking the whip and this, that and the other, but there was a structure and there was a regime. The staff knew where they stood, and so did the people in our custody. And it was, if you weren't doing your job, you were questioned. Mm-hmm. You know, even as something as being 5 minutes late, it was a no-no. Mm-hmm. And it not been shaved. Staff had to be clean shaven. Mm-hmm. And all of those things were the things which I thrived upon. I loved it. I enjoyed my time at Pentonville, and what I did was, as soon as I got there, I took the advice of an old sweat, and he said to me, fill your transfer request in now. It's going to take you 7 to 9 years to get out of here. That's the average. I enjoyed London, everything it had to offer.
I was going to say it's a bit of a transition from Durham in the 80s, isn't
absolutely,
it?
Absolutely. Yeah. But you always hanker to come home because you believe the grass is...
Of course.
And I got my transfer after 2 years, and they shipped me off to Acklington because my transfer request had on Acklington, Castlington, Durham, Dearborn, Low Newton. It had them all on.
And for those who don't know where Acklington is...
Oh, the opposite end of the country, on the Scottish borders practically. So I'd gone from that jail, which was highly complex, locking up. I mean, there was 3 to a cell, you know, and it was we were still slopping out at the time. There was no internal sanitation.
So no toilets, no
No,
sinks?
no.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, just it was the bucket, wasn't it? Or the
Yes,
pot?
yes, it was, Gary.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something which some people would say, well, so what? But that's kind of a basic human right, you know. And also, it's not nice for the lads behind the doors, and it's not nice for the staff, and it's just not nice.
Well, I can attest to this, and pressing the bell and begging to use the lift, absolutely begging, and having someone come in your cell who you've never met before in your life, and you have to kind of squat. I mean, I know there's toilets in cells now, and there's that little partition, which is far from 5
it's
star.
still indignant,
but there's still a toilet there. You know,
still undignified.
But that the bucket, a brown bucket in the corner. I mean, that was when I first went into the cell in Durham. I often tell you this, and it was before Earwing had been renovated. And I knew nothing of prison, even though I was a little criminal. You know, nobody had been to prison where I lived, really. So when we went to prison, and I went in that cell, I just got 4 years, down the tunnel and into the cell.
Yes.
And you had everyone shouting, he's the baby burglars, and the long wing, E-wing and D-wing.
Well, it was all one wing
and
then,
the cons
wasn't it?
were shouting, you're not in Kansas anymore now, Dorothy. I thought, am I out of here? And when I went in that cell and they shut the door, I didn't even know you got shipped out.
Right.
So I'm sitting in this Victorian cave with a hole in the bucket there, and I thought, there's another 4 years of this. I don't know if I can do this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I'll never forget, and we've often talked about the stench of where you had to slow out and stuff like that. Stays with you forever, and it hangs on your clothes.
It does. It's awful.
So
it's awful.
This episode is brought to you by Curious Matter Productions, turning up the volume on society's forgotten voices. The series Hope in Hell is a platform for amplifying raw, real stories of survival, despair and triumph, told through open, honest and powerful conversations, because no matter what life throws at you, there's always hope.
And then, obviously, they sent me off to Acklington, and that was such a contrast, and I found it hard to adjust. I really found it hard to adjust. I'd gone from a Cat B local, which was just like Piccadilly Circuit. It was horrendous.
I'm going to keep on asking you these questions, both of you. So for those who don't know, again, Cat B locals, what does that mean?
The warehouses, to be perfectly honest, Gary, they receive from the courts, so that you can imagine, and in a London jail, how many courts and magistrates courts there is, and they're just bombarded every day. The number of ins and outs.
It's the footfall, isn't it?
Yes, it's just incredible. And how they get the numbers right at the end of the day is absolutely beyond
Well,
me.
sometimes we don't.
So,
and security-wise, then, do you want to explain Cat B to us?
Well, yeah, like you've got the Cat A, which what they call the dispersal system, and for a while Durham was in that, and it's basically nothing moves, does it?
No.
Category A, high risk. An escape would be a threat to the public, basically, or the state. They're the real top-end gangsters. You get terrorists, real top-end drug dealers, that sort of stuff. So basically, if you're a Cat A, escape must be made impossible.
And you're deemed high risk to the public.
And the public and the state.
Yeah.
So, and they've got all sorts of, the cameras, any time they move internally, there's a dog with them. So, and they're all on the book, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Cat A book.
And a certain amount of officers.
Yeah, certain amount. And, they move cells every month, so they can't dig out. And they can only use certain cells. So they're not on an outer wall.
So category B, you're talking still tight security.
yes.
To be fair, it's probably minus the dogs, isn't it?
Yes, that's about it, really.
Yeah.
It's still cameraed. There's still big walls.
Yeah.
It's still
razor wire.
You've got to get
G-phone.
permission to move.
Yeah.
If you're taking prisoners from one point to another, and it's just.
So landing in Acklington must have been like landing on the moon.
I think
for
the
you
difference,
with fences and the Cat C.
The best way for me, I think, Cat B is you wouldn't get in a Cat A is you get everybody from murder to non-payment of fines.
Yes.
Where that wouldn't be.
They're awaiting, aren't they? It's like a holding pen.
Yes.
It's just
is.
a warehouse.
It's a
It's an
sausage
awful
fire.
way to describe things, but
I think that's fair
it
enough.
really
isn't it?
is. It really is.
I was doing a talk the other day at the gym, and I said this to a young guy. He said, you know. And I said, look, you could go to cell in Durham
Yes.
with someone who's in for murder.
Yeah.
Or any you don't know what you're going to be confronted with.
And I've put people in, like a lad first time in prison, put in with a lad who clearly had mental health issues. I was almost reluctant to lock the door.
But
I was
it's the pressure, it's the accommodation pressures.
Yeah.
So landing on what must have felt like the moon.
Oh, it was just the total polar opposite. In a Cat C jail, a fence.
Yeah.
A lot more freedom of movement, and I couldn't cope. And I realised that I'd become as institutionalised, and I ended up being called up by the governor because I was placing prisoners on report all the time for things which it was a more relaxed regime, but it was still embedded in me.
Yeah.
Pentonville was still embedded in me. And the governor at the time, Chris Harder, he called me up and he just sat back in his chair and he just went, just relax. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know, you're anxious, you're stressed. And I'm not stressed, I'm not anxious, I'm just trying to do my job. And I wanted to be aware. And I moved up to Northumberland and I didn't mind that part of it. And I think I was there a couple of years and I asked, I can't remember whether I put in a transfer request or it was just a passing comment to the governor, and I just said, I'm not happy here, Governor. I want to go back. I want to go to Durham. And within 6 months, I was back at Durham. Then I went on PE. I decided to do PE instead of the dog handler specialism. And I thought, well, if I'm going to get paid to do something which I've done all my life, and I'm going to be able to work in a gymnasium setting, and I'm going to get out of this horrible uniform, and I can come to work in a tracksuit, which is tantamount to a romper suit, really. What better? I've become a professional sportsman, which is all I wanted to do all my life.
An opportunity to live your passion and get paid. Yeah.
So I went on the PE course, and that was challenging. Got through it, and we go off to Lilleshall, which is a national sports centre, and we're there quite a while.
Excuse me.
And got through that and I qualified, and what did they do? They sent me back to Acklington again on PE, and I thought, you guys are having a laugh here. Anyway, I went back and I thought, well, make the best of it. It's probably a good idea to go there because of the facilities, and I'm actually going to learn my trade as a PE officer. Because we had football teams, we had rugby teams, we had going out canoeing, taking people swimming. The gymnasium was second to none. Anyway, I learnt my trade there at PE and had some great times and was really fortunate and kind of embarrassed, really. I used to tell people, what have you done today? Oh, I've been out to Morwick Mill, which is a local beauty spot, really, on the River Till, I think. Is it on the River Till? And I've been abseiling with the prisoners. You've been what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we did a bit of canoeing in the afternoon. You are? And it was kind of, the public just couldn't believe it. And some of the staff resented it as well. And then we'd take prisoners out on camps over a week. But I was never asked what we did on those camps. And it was kind of learning them new skills. It's kind of developing a little bit of social responsibility there with other people.
Absolutely.
You know, they have to behave. I'm relying on you not to mess up so that I get to come out again. And it's kind of the peer pressure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We used like map reading skills. Some lads had never been out in a tent in their life.
Yeah.
And they thrived upon it, you know.
I think there's a huge thing around having experienced some of that stuff as a prisoner, being given trust and responsibility.
Yes.
And I remember going to Adrian's wall many years ago with an officer, and he said, if you run, you know, it's me that gets in trouble. You know.
Yes.
And so there was that pressure on you
not to
play the game and keep it right. But having been through some of those initiatives, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think looking back, there was a huge therapeutic value to it. You know, and I know you mentioned that before the cameras rolled. So
yes,
some of the initiatives you've both been involved in.
I think PE is kind of undervalued in prisons. If I had to say what PE was there for, my opinion is, first of all, it's there to support the regime of the jail. Because whether people accept it or not, we have a different relationship with those
definitely.
in our charge.
100%.
And we have a better influence with them.
100%, yeah.
And that's a positive influence, not a negative.
Absolutely, I would agree.
So that's our first, for me, that's the first thing. The second thing is, look, some of these lads are locked up 23 hours a day. Mental and physical health, you know. We had an MP visit Durham, the gymnasium, and it was Tim Allen who brought him up to the gym. I'm not mentioning his name. Quite a well-known MP. His brother is an MP at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll give you many clues.
Yeah, I'm there now, I've got it.
He came up to the gym and he stood, and the gymnasium was full, absolutely chock-a-block with prisoners. They're working on weights, they're on the treadmills, they're doing this, that and the other. There's a lot of noise, the music's going off. And he just stood there and I could see his chin dropping. And he had his parliamentary secretary with him as well. And this parliamentary secretary said, can you tell Mr. a little bit about? And I said, well, if he cares to ask me a question. And he said, how come? He says, they're using weights and big dumbbells and they're weapons. And I said, well, you think they are. But I said, this is the whole point. If we're going to develop social responsibility, we're a better place to start. In a gymnasium with this type of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
We never had no alarm bells in the gymnasium. No.
Very rarely, isn't it? Very rare.
Because it was a collective, and what you've just said, Gary, there was peer pressure. 9 times out of 10, if something was going to happen in the gymnasium, we'd be too big, we wouldn't see who did it, but we'd warn them. You will all suffer the consequence.
Yeah.
You will all be rested from the gymnasium for a week.
That actually happened in Durham when it was prefabs. There was an attack.
Oh, yes.
When I was there and I was at the top of the gym.
They were on D-Wing Yard.
Some guy got hit with a steel bucket in the face and stabbed with a mop handle.
Yeah.
Very rare occurrence, but we all got bad from the gym.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can understand what happened after that to said perpetrator.
Yeah.
And that person would have been identified.
Because getting banned from the gym in jail is like the worst thing that can possibly happen to you.
Absolutely.
Other than anything happening tragically on the out. But within the institution, getting banned from the gym's a nightmare, isn't it?
Well, we were having the conversation when we were out last week.
Yeah.
Well, I can only remember in the time I was there, one fight and the prisoners broke it up.
Yeah.
They sorted it out. Like
prisons run on the goodwill of prisoners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether we like it or not, that's it's a fact.
Yeah.
And in the gymnasium setting, we were very lucky and very fortunate, but we had to foster those relationships.
Absolutely, yeah.
We had to maintain those relationships. And the people who I've met across the 37 years is just, I look back and I don't remember the bad times. I don't remember bad incidents. I don't remember confrontations. I remember the laughs, the jokes.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I used to say to the lads on induction, when we used to bring them for PE induction, I used to say to them, look, even if you're not intrinsically interested in PE, come up and give it a go. Instead of sitting in your cell watching Jeremy Kyle all day, come up and give it a go.
Which is extremely bad for your mental health.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And it was kind of, the penny used to drop with them. I used to say to them, come for the first time, see what it's like. Most of it was fear. They feared the changing rooms. They feared the showers.
Yeah, of course.
They feared, because jails are violent places.
Because on the wings it would probably happen in the showers.
Yeah. It didn't happen in the gym. And for those reasons. And he asked me on that day, he said to me, well, he said, is this not just quantity? Where's the quality?
Yeah.
That's what he said to me. And I just said, where's the quality? I said, there's some prisoners in here don't get a shower every day. They don't know how to take a shower. That's quality to me.
Absolutely.
These been in here with, amongst people who've committed violent crimes, down to shoplifting, they're all mixed together. That's quality.
Yeah.
So how do you define quality? And I said, the problem is, I said, the look on your face tells me everything. You political elites are making the rules, you're making all the policies, but you haven't a clue what's going on.
Yeah, in the trenches as
On
well.
the cold face, yeah.
They have no idea.
I think the gym historically is the heartbeat of the prison, really, isn't it?
It should be, Gary. It should be. I'm not biased because I was.
Well, you're allowed to be, both of you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think it's just a great tool.
It is.
It's a huge tool. It's like we've had lads in the gym who are absolute note but trouble on the wings, not a hate with the bother in the gym. But I think that's down to the relationship as well.
We tried to use that,
and
we weren't allowed to call it a contract. We had to call it a compact.
Yeah.
So prisoners used to sign it, and we used to put a load of rules on. And one of them was, if you're misbehaving on the wing, don't think that you can be goody two-shoes in here and then be a bad boy on the wing. And we used to try and educate the staff to use that as a tool. But they didn't, and it when we used to remind them, they just used to look through us, you know.
I can remember when I got the job as gym orderly, and I was using steroids. I was up to no good, allegedly, on the wings, and I was up to all kinds of stuff, you know, doing everything you possibly can.
Surviving, Gary.
Yeah, making money and doing all the things. And the officer, he said, I know you're taking steroids. You couldn't press 2 toilet rolls 6 weeks ago.
Right.
Now, look, I don't think we don't know. He said, but I'll tell you what I'll do with you. Stop doing what you're doing on the wings. Stop taking gear. And I'll give you the job. And I took the job, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Right.
And from there, I got, had a grudging respect for them, but I got a massive respect for them because you saw the other side of things. You saw the value of what people were trying to do, and and the therapeutic effect, and like you said, physical and mental health.
Yes.
That kind of positive impact right across the people who were accessing that gym, and bringing outside organisations in. I mean, we had rabbis from Russia coming in. It was crazy. People with disabilities were accessed, outside football teams, rugby teams. It did a tremendous amount of good. And one of the things that one of the officers said was, he said, you're not going to get anything in life, unless you work hard for it. I was like, whatever, mate, yeah. And he was right.
Yes.
And I got on famously with him. In fact, so famously, when I went to Kirk Levenon, I was in for Section 18s. They gave us an axe and said, get yourself around that wood and start chopping the trees down. And the gym screws from Atlincoln pulled up. He was like, who's give him that? I was just wandering down the street with it. But it did have a huge effect on me looking back. I think I respected some officers, but I think you got an automatic respect for, gym screws, gym officers, because they were fit, they were, they were projecting like some positivity.
The atmosphere is a lot more relaxed, isn't it, than on a wing?
Yeah.
It is,
it's a different world.
It is,
and I just think PE is so undervalued. I remember I got involved with a research paper where it had been written by a professor, and her name's Rosie Meeks, and she did this study on the effects of physical education, or the positive effects of physical education in prisons. And it was nationwide. It wasn't, she's London based, but she travelled out and she looked at all different establishments. She spoke to hundreds and hundreds of people, mostly prisoners. Anyway, this report came out and she had some great recommendations. But what I found was those recommendations were only what PE staff had been saying for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I think PE is recognised, Lenny, because you were part of it. If you remember in the gym, there was a big inquiry, and you and John and a few others were.
Absolutely.
And a lot of PE staff weren't in work they're either sick or suspended and stuff. And I can remember the number one governor come to me, says, Tom, I do not care how much it costs. I was ringing, what do you call them? They were coming from Acton. I was getting PA staff from Acton. He says, I don't care what it costs, what you got to pay, just get them here to. Because for me, the gym is critical for the stability of the.
Yes, it is, and that's what I said it'll be. Our role is that.
You tend to get the more influential prisoners in the gym as well. Yeah. So for the stability, it's massively important.
How long then? How long were you a gym officer for?
Well, I wasn't gym. I was the manager for.
You're the manager. Yeah.
Well, to be fair,
2 stints he did.
I was parachuted 3 times, Lenny.
Was it 3? Was it?
I was parachuted in 3 times. Yeah.
Shows you how much notice I was taking.
Yeah. There was, to be fair, I'm going to say it now, Lenny made me look good, if I'm honest. And he did.
He has said that many times to me, actually, Lenny.
We used to get 99
point
whatever on audits, and obviously I get the credit, but it was all down to Lenny.